Somewhere in the world, a story is breaking.
The bombers knew the impact.
It's a story that'll move you.
Another survivor was miraculously returned to the arms of a grateful father.
It's thought-provoking.
5 men say they're innocent.
It's a moment that will change our lives.
City analysts say we can't ignore the euro.
A story is breaking that must be told.
That's why we're here. Weekdays
At 12:30,
6:30
and 11.
and throughout the weekend.
Just started over on ITV2, tonight's edition of The Bill. Here on Carlton, it's time for the ITV Nightly News with Dermot Murnaghan.
Violent skirmishes mar Leeds match tonight. Mob rule as more farms burn in Zimbabwe. A baby dies after a suspected road rage incident. And all tonight's UEFA Cup semi-final match action.
From ITN, the ITV Nightly News with Dermot Murnaghan.
Good evening. Despite a huge security operation, there was trouble in Leeds tonight at the second leg of the UEFA Cup semi-final against Galatasaray. It was at the first leg in Turkey a fortnight ago that 2 Leeds fans were murdered. Tonight, about 200 shouted scum at the Galatasaray team and fought running battles with police. At least 15 arrests are reported so far, but no serious injuries. ITN's Colin Baker is there.
With a strong police escort, the Galatasaray team came in through the back door. They arrived unscathed, but this was a prelude to scenes of ugly skirmishes between some so-called supporters and police. Mounted police had to use their batons. It was difficult to see what had sparked this confrontation. Violence had been feared, but in the absence of Turkish fans, some sections of the crowd vented their anger against the press and the media. A coach carrying the Turkish media arrived with a window smashed by angry fans. This was one of the biggest public order operations ever undertaken by West Yorkshire Police. Inside the ground, this time both sides wearing black armbands, there was a minute's unbroken silence for the 2 Leeds fans killed in Istanbul. The moment was respectful and in marked contrast to the earlier behaviour of a fringe element outside the ground. One of the visiting Turkish VIPs showed remarkable insensitivity. He unfurled a flag. Stewards quickly took it off him. Fans later left the ground, mostly without any problem. Lines of riot police standing by, but not used. Some arrests have been made tonight. A priority now for the police will be to investigate just how much of tonight's violence was pre-planned. Colin Baker, ITN, Leeds.
And we'll have a report on the match itself and on the other semi-final between Arsenal and the French side Lens a bit later in the programme. Despite yesterday's talk of an end to hostilities, another white-owned farm in Zimbabwe was ransacked today and its black workers intimidated by President Mugabe's supporters. He's due to host a regional summit on the crisis tomorrow. Our Africa correspondent Tim Hewitt reports.
It has been another day of hatred and violence in Zimbabwe. These pictures were taken on a farm not far from the capital, Harare, the latest property to be attacked by what appears to be a mob roaming the area. The violence at Pied Piper Farm was first directed at the family pets. 6 dogs were stoned and beaten to death. The next target was the homes of farm workers. They're now often the first to suffer in such raids. Many have been brutally beaten. Here their homes were set on fire, leaving them dispossessed and unemployed. At this farm, the workers and their employer were accused of supporting the MDC opposition party. In the politics of Zimbabwe, opposing President Mugabe is a dangerous business.
Pied Piper Farm is the most ruthless and the headquarters of MDC. And our people have been suffering because of these people who are supporting fiber farm.
Increasing numbers of white farmers are packing up and moving out. John West bought his property with government approval 5 years ago. Today he was collecting the remaining family possessions before taking his wife and children for an extended holiday in England. He was warned he was to be attacked next Tuesday.
Well, basically I thought that they were going to come in their hundreds or whatever, and beat up the Labour force, beat me up, abduction, murder, you don't know.
Mr. West doesn't know when he'll return, certainly not until all threats of violence are lifted. On farms across Zimbabwe, the gates are being locked and homes left deserted. Terror has worked here, and restoring any sort of confidence in the farming community may now be impossible. At Pied Piper Farm, they were still on the rampage this evening. There'll be no work here for some time. The only harvest, the harvest of hate. Tim Ewart, ITN, Zimbabwe.
The South Manchester coroner is seeking the Home Secretary's permission to hold inquests on another 23 of Dr. Harold Shipman's elderly women patients. Their families suspect they were murdered, like the 15 Dr. Shipman is already serving life for. He could be called to give evidence, but won't be put on trial again. Strathclyde police were tonight trying to trace a people carrier type car thought to have been involved in a road rage incident near Glasgow in which a baby boy was killed. His parents' car was apparently forced off the M8 motorway and down an embankment. ITN's Linda Kennedy reports.
Somewhere in footage from these cameras, police hope to find the car crash on the M8 which led to the baby's death. At the scene, still visible are tyre marks where the Rover Saloon skidded off and into an embankment, fatally injuring 6-month-old Robbie Miller, who was with his parents and 2 brothers. Other family members also went to hospital, but their condition isn't life-threatening. The baby's father was driving and says the crash came after a 7-mile chase with another car. Police want to hear from one driver in particular after information from a witness.
A lady has discussed with us an earlier incident, not that many minutes prior to the vehicle leaving the road in the M8, which suggests that we are looking for a deep purple, deep red type people carrier. We're keeping a very open mind on that.
So far, that's the best lead police have. And as well as studying tape archive, they're also monitoring the roads tonight, hoping for a sighting of that dark red people carrier, which could provide the key to this car crash. Linda Kennedy, ITN, Force Headquarters, Glasgow.
The solicitor acting for Tony Martin, the Norfolk farmer found guilty yesterday of the murder of a young burglar, tonight demanded an investigation into a claim that there'd been an attempt to intimidate the jury. It was made in a call to a radio station purportedly from a juror. Martin is to appeal against his conviction. Tony Blair and the Irish Prime Minister Bertie Ahern had another go today at breathing some life back into the Good Friday Agreement of 2 years ago. After talks in Downing Street, Mr Ahern hinted at progress after Easter. John Sargent reports.
If it was a matter for the two governments to settle, a breakthrough would be easy. But it's producing proposals which could find agreement among the parties in Northern Ireland, which is taxing the two leaders. At the very least, they want to conserve what's been achieved already.
What we have done in Northern Ireland in the past 2 years is a little short of a miracle. 2/3 of Northern Ireland has no army patrols in it today. We've got tremendous opportunities there, and as ever we feel a sense of frustration, but I don't think that's the issue here.
After an hour and a half of talks, the Irish Prime Minister was upbeat.
Certainly this week, and the work we've been doing at official level in the last 2 weeks, does give me confidence that we can, on the other side of Easter, make progress. It's not going to be easy. We do not have a simple resolution because there is none. But I think together, both Prime Minister Blair and myself are convinced that we see some ways of moving forward.
The main problem is what it's always been, how to get the IRA to agree to decommission their arms. Unless some way is found to tackle that issue, it's very difficult to see how there can be a breakthrough. John Sargent, ITN, Downing Street.
A father who wanted more time off to spend with his daughter has won the right to work part-time in a landmark legal battle with his employers. Robert Jones, who's an insurance claims clerk from Birmingham, brought a case of sex discrimination against his employers.
It was important that I brought the case because I wanted to work part-time for both for my family, and it's also to raise the issue that there were women working part-time at my office for childcare reasons, and I wanted the same option.
Now we're going to find ourselves grappling with new telephone numbers this weekend when some of the dialling codes change again. Northern Ireland, London and 4 other cities are affected, and some mobile phones. Caroline Kerr explains.
All the numbers change on Saturday.
There's plenty of publicity, but with just 2 days to go before telephone numbers change in many regions of the country, most of us still don't know our new code. It's particularly confusing for elderly people. Ellen Ed Davis is 84 and didn't even know the changes were happening.
What are they going to do? Change all this? Oh, I find it very confusing.
This is how the numbers are changing. London's new code is 020. If you live in inner London, you have to add a 7 to your existing number. If you're in outer London, add an 8. 5 other areas also have new codes. Portsmouth's becomes 023 plus 92. For Southampton, you need to dial 023 plus 80. For Coventry, 024 plus 76. In Cardiff, it's 029 plus 20. And all Northern Ireland numbers will now begin 028. It's only 5 years since the last change. Experts blame the telephone regulator Oftel for making inadequate changes last time. Today, Oftel promised it wouldn't happen again.
I can guarantee that the public in all of those cities that are being affected, there'll be no number changes in their areas for 15, 20 years at least.
Oftel's now hoping its television campaign will prevent mass public confusion on Saturday. Caroline Kerr, ITN.
It's Maundy Thursday, so the Queen was at the traditional Royal Maundy service today, giving money to pensioners to reward work for community and church. More than 1,000 people were in Lincoln Cathedral for the event. 148 pensioners were given purses containing commemorative silver coins to the value of 74 pence. The amount corresponds to the Queen's age. Now back to the UEFA Cup football, and Leeds, 2-0 down in the disastrous first leg, could manage only a 2-2 draw against Galatasaray tonight, so they're out. But Arsenal are through to the final. They beat Lens 2-1 tonight in France. Here's Angus Scott.
If passions were heated outside the ground, the atmosphere inside Elland Road was equally intense, especially when Jonathan Woodgate gave away a penalty inside 4 minutes. Georgie Hadji's spot kick meant Leeds now needed to score 4 if they were to make the final. Eric Bakker gave them hope when he met Jason Wilcox's corner perfectly, 1-1 on the night, 3-1 down on aggregate. But the semi-final was put beyond them when Hakan Şükür rounded the Leeds defence to give the Turks an even clearer advantage. The occasion seemed to get to the young referee too. He needlessly sent off Harry Kewell and then Emery for little more than over-exuberance. Eric Bakker earned Leeds an honourable draw, which ended a desperate fortnight in the club's history. Success finally came to an English club in France. Thierry Henry obviously felt at home when he put Arsenal ahead against Lens. The French side equalised, but Kanu completed the victory, which means it's more English opposition for the Turks next month. Angus Scott, ITN Sport.
So confirmation then that the UEFA Cup final will be between Arsenal and Galatasaray in Copenhagen. That's on May the 17th. Now, record numbers of people appear to be getting away for Easter. The strong pound, higher than ever against the euro currencies today, could be one factor. The dismal weather here is undoubtedly another. Here's Howell Jones.
Heading for home or a holiday, passengers at Waterloo Station in London tonight joined the throng leaving for Easter breaks. Around 1.5 million Britons will choose to be abroad this weekend. In a year when we've all been urged to do something last minute, internet bargains and the weather have both played their part in persuading holidaymakers to leave Britain behind this Easter.
The weather has actually, I think, forced them away. But we've also got the fact that we've got a late Easter. That means they can combine this break with one in just over a week's time. And by taking 4 days off work, they can have a 2-week holiday.
Tonight, the weathermen were still watching for those April showers. What kind of April has it been?
Variable across the country. In the south, for instance, it's been very wet. Yet in the parts of the north, it's actually been very good. In Western Scotland, for instance, they've had some very dry weather for the time of year.
OK, so
if I can give those to you, you're checked in for your flight.
At airports, the busiest flights have been to warm southern European destinations, Spain and the Canary Islands among the most popular choices, though even there, sunshine isn't guaranteed for a dream Easter break. Howell Jones, ITN.
The headlines again. At least 15 people were arrested in Leeds tonight outside Leeds United's UEFA Cup match against Galatasaray. Fans shouted scum at the Turkish team and attacked police and camera crews. And another white-owned farm in Zimbabwe has been destroyed. Tonight's financial figures. The FTSE 100 share index in London reversed its earlier fall to close up 56 points. In New York, the Dow ended the day 169 points higher and the pound fell a fraction of a cent against the dollar. Now it's time to have a flick through tomorrow's papers. And the Telegraph reports that police are investigating a phone call from someone saying they were a juror in the Tony Martin case and claiming there was an attempt at intimidation. It also pictures a painting by Constable of a dairy herd. The Times says Conservative Party membership has sunk to its lowest level since the First World War. It pictures a child having fun on the beach at Lyme Regis. The Guardian features a memorial to the victims of the shooting at Columbine High School in America a year ago. It also has a story criticising the government's response to the Mozambique floods. The claim of attempted jury nobbling is also in the Daily Mail. It says Mr. Martin's defence team has begun its own investigation into the alleged events. And The Sun also has the claims of attempted juror intimidation in the Tony Martin case. It describes him as a political prisoner. And that's the news tonight from all of us with the ITV Nightly News. Good night and enjoy the Easter weekend.
Good evening. Well, for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, it hasn't been too bad, but further south, it's a real deluge this April, isn't it? And I can show you just how wet it's been. On average, in April, you'd expect around about 50 millimetres of rain, but this month, we've already doubled that in a number of places, so we're really going to have to watch those river levels with more rain expected over the next few days. Number of showers around tonight. So a showery start tomorrow for many places. The best of the sunshine, probably northeastern parts of Scotland, northeast England. But if you stay in dry tomorrow, you'll be very lucky. Those showers will become quite widespread, heavy and thundery, some hail possible in the heaviest showers, a blustery wind too, so it's not going to feel all that warm anywhere. Temperatures in the range 13 to 16 Celsius, 16 not too bad, 61 Fahrenheit. And over the weekend it's a similar story, I'm afraid. A lot of showers around, especially on Saturday across the eastern part of the UK, that transferring northwards by Sunday, but more showers following on from the south. And by Monday, further showers to come, but there will be some sunshine in between. If you can get in some shelter, it shouldn't feel too bad. Temperatures generally in the range 11 to 14 Celsius. That's it from me. Here's a summary.
Powergen. Power, whatever the weather.
Now London Tonight with Joyce O'Haja.
Good evening. One of the two men who died in yesterday's air crash in Essex was named this evening as Richard Bassett. It was also confirmed that a 10-year-old boy who lost his life in the tragedy was on the trip as a birthday treat. Gareth Furby reports.
In a field near the M11, all that remains of a Cessna light aircraft. On board was a 10-year-old boy, enjoying what should have been a special treat, according to some reports, for his birthday. Along with the pilot, the boy was killed instantly. And just 100 yards away, evidence about the cause of this crash, part of the Cessna's wing. Ripped off, according to eyewitnesses, by a collision with another single-seater light aircraft. Its remains in the next field. Again, the pilot stood no chance.
I was aware of the aircraft before I heard the bang, because they're obviously quite low and close. I looked up and saw one plane hit the other. And the plane that landed across on the right here, the other one seemed to sever the wing, and then the wing flew off to the left, and the plane then just plummeted straight to the ground.
The boy's father was waiting for his son to return in the clubhouse of nearby North Weald Airfield.
Father was there
for whatever reason, and was waiting for his son to come back from this trip. And clearly Essex Police had the unpleasant task of going to tell him what happened.
Tonight, the pilot of the single-engined aircraft, identical to this, was named as Richard Bassett, known to his friends as Fred, and just 34 years old. He was a member of a display team called the Aero Stars, and highly experienced, starting 5 years ago in this formation team, which thrilled crowds around Britain.
He was lively, energetic, enthusiastic, much loved by all of us. He'll be very, very sadly missed. Our deepest sympathies to everybody involved in the accident.
What crash investigators have to establish now is why the planes were on a collision course. But when flying light aircraft, pilots normally rely purely on sight to maintain separation. It may be that a moment's lapse in concentration has cost 3 lives. In Harlow, this is Gareth Furby for London Tonight.
An overwhelming majority of London Tonight viewers think Reggie Kray should be released from prison. Kray, who's serving life for murder, attended the funeral of his brother Charlie yesterday. He was jailed in 1969 with a recommendation that he serve at least 30 years. Last night, a London Tonight phone poll asked if he should now be freed. More than 16,000 of you rang. 92% said yes, it is time he was released. 8% said no. A teenage girl is fighting for her life after being attacked by a gang in a South London park. The 16-year-old was walking with her boyfriend in Crystal Palace when they were confronted by the youths. She remains in a critical condition at the Mayday Hospital in Thornton Heath. Her friend, who's in his 20s, was released after being treated for his injuries. Police hunting Jill Dando's killer have received around 300 calls from the public after the latest appeal for information. Following last night's Crime Watch programme, the names of 2 men were mentioned twice by callers. Tony Blair said today that London's mayoral battle is a policy-free zone. The Prime Minister went on to predict that support for Frank Dobson would grow. Londoners will begin choosing their first democratically elected mayor a week from today. Thousands of residents at Bexley Heath in Kent are back in their homes this evening after an unexploded World War II bomb was safely defused. Army experts gave the all-clear early this morning after working through the night on the 60-year-old bomb. The £1,000 explosive was found by builders working on the Broadway shopping centre. Boyzone Stephen Gately will be the star attraction at the capital's main gay festival this summer. 85,000 people are expected to attend Mardi Gras 2000 at Finsbury Park on July the 1st. Gately announced last year that he was gay. Football, Arsenal have reached their 3rd European final in 7 years. The Gunners beat Lens 2-1 in France this evening to win a place in the UEFA Cup final. Thierry Henry opened the scoring before the French side equalised. A late goal from Kanu secured Arsenal's victory. They'll play Galatasaray on May 17th in Copenhagen. London Zoo unveiled its newest arrivals today in time for the Easter holidays. These emu chicks were hatched just 4 weeks ago on a hill at Whipsnade. The zoo admits it's not sure whether they're male or female yet. Also on display today was a tiny Egyptian tortoise. A wet and windy Trafalgar Square was a setting for a world record attempt today. It featured 1 bicycle, 15 Chinese acrobats and a great deal of nerve. Ronke Phillips reports.
Take a couple of workmen, a specially swept bit of concrete, and add 15 members of the Chinese State Circus and 1 bicycle. It should have all added up to a record-breaking display. All 15 acrobats perched on 1 bike, arms spread out like a fan. But when you add a wet and wind-exposed Trafalgar Square to the equation, things are bound to go a bit wrong. That record isn't going to be broken just yet.
Normally we perform on the stage, and the stage must be